Okay, let's try this shit again. One more fucking time. I got interrupted 5 times trying to make a video. I went outside and got interrupted, then I came in here and got interrupted by my alarm. Then I got interrupted by something else, then I got interrupted by something else. And I have no idea where this is coming on now. Because the world wants to fuck with me right now. That's a perfect time to make a video. Pardon the language, it's just, I needed that. I needed all those interruptions. I mean, seriously, I got interrupted like 6 times within like 5 minutes trying to make a video. And I thought back to when I first started making videos, and I used to get frustrated when I'd get interrupted. Even though I never took myself seriously, I've never edited my videos really, or at all, or done any type of, really important, structured chats or talks or videos. Mostly it's just me rambling. But anyhow, I'm going to do my best to convey what I was trying to get at before, which was that little shit like that is so trivial in life. I'm instantly over it. If something frustrates me, I'm like, God damn it, I might even, oh, shit, and then it's over. I'm done with it. I don't carry around crap with me. I don't carry around baggage. I don't carry around frustration or resentment towards people. If somebody in my life is causing me grief, well, I walk away from it. That may not, that may come across as walking away from a problem. That's not what I mean. If there's an issue that needs to be worked out, I'll sit and discuss it. But if it's something that's not worth the time, and it's not worth the debate, not worth the argument, whether it be with a person or with the situation in my mind, then I'm willing to just let it go. And to really get to my message here, which is, as cheesy as it sounds, and this is why I haven't made this video, I'd love to come on here and say, all you have to do is change your mind. You can live a happy life. The rest of your life you'll be happy. You've just got to change your mind, change your life. And you hear all these stupid little spiritual quotes and new age rhetoric and bullshit that, to me, doesn't do any justice to the real situation of man. And I've been in that state of mind, that new age type state of mind, where I even used love and light, I think, as a sign-off a couple times back in the day. And it's because I really yearned for that. Because I saw an image of people who seemed completely content and happy. And seemed that things didn't bother them, and seemed that they had a spiritual grasp on their life, and that they were living, to their fullest. And the more I met these people, the more I met some of these spiritual people, I saw that they had serious hidden depressions, hidden angers and frustrations, or massive judgments towards other people. And when you really believe something strongly, and it really helps you in your life, you don't need to prove that to anyone, but you do want to help to share that with people, so to help them to gain a better understanding of life. For example, if you try delicious food, and you go out and you're hanging out with your friend, and you're like, man, this is good, I want you to try it. You don't want, the same thing can happen when somebody eats something nasty, okay? Now that just popped into my head, there's a video I watched a while back said, why is it that when we eat something gross, we want other people to try it too? Ew, try this. Why? Because we want them to experience what we're experiencing so we can relate. So for me to be living a relatively content, happy life, and trying to embrace the day as it comes, and taking things for what they are without putting some blanket over the problems, because I'm not going to say that evil and negativity need to be conquered, because that assumes that I'm putting a label on what's negative and what's evil. The philosophy, the idea that we as humans can decide what's evil and what's good. Obviously, there's no consensus among people. One religion and another group all have different ideas about what's important, and the most important things. And it's very difficult for people to tell others, this is what you should do with your life. Somebody pointed something out the other day. They said, if you look at the 10 Commandments, you'll notice how almost all there says no so many times on those 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, not. It's because it's very easy for us to pick out things that we see harm, even in one situation, and say, oh, we should not do that. And I have nothing against the idea of not coveting your neighbor's goods or not murdering. I think that those are things that we can all agree on to an extent, but not all of us. There are some people out there, at least one person, who believes that murder is probably legitimate. And a lot of people, but I mean, maybe one person out there watching this video might think that murder is justified. I myself believe that self-defense is justified. I won't get into the philosophy of, death and destruction. That's something that we as humans decide what's important and what's not. But all that aside, what I'm trying to get at is I see a lot of blaming out there for individual problems. When we aren't doing well economically, it's the fault of some other business or some large corporation who's robbing us from our rights, which in a lot of cases that is an effect, but it's not something that we're going to change by complaining about it. If we're feeling like we don't have a certain right, then all of a sudden it's the government's fault instead of the people who vote these people in. We put the blame on anyone we can, and the higher up a person is, or the richer a person is, or the more distant a person or group is, the easier it is to pin all the evils of the world on them. I'll give you an example of the Freemasons. When I first heard about the Freemasons 20 years ago, because my grandfather was a master Mason, I didn't know that until years later, but I thought that the Freemasons had created all this havoc, that their whole thing, they were bent on New World Order and domination. Then I studied Freemasonry and started to understand that when Freemasons, the reason why they acted in secrecy and had meetings in secrecy originally was because they were being penalized by the church, the state. So they were trying to basically gain their own freedoms. And the idea of a New World Order was never a world of full control. A New World Order was a way where everyone can live together in harmony in our own various, this all interpretation, open for interpretation, but there's so much going on out there that we get easily frustrated and point the finger at other people, and we have to point that finger right back at ourselves. Now, there are situations where sometimes we can blame someone for our problems, but if we're focused on what has happened in the past, too much. See, knowing history is crucial. I think knowing your history allows you to not feel lost. What Nietzsche called the slave herd, or herd mentality, the slave mentality, I guess, was it had nothing to do with just being a slave, as far as to the man or to the corporations. That was part of it. But it had to do with feeling frustrated with the world around you and taking it out on everyone else. It had to do with the person who says, well, I can't succeed, so no one else will either. And then they wish for destruction, they wish for the world to collapse, everything to fall apart. I see this all the time. People who say, well, we're all doomed anyway. It's a good excuse, it's a good cop-out, but it's still not going to change your life. Even if everything goes to shit, you will still be there, trying to figure out what next. So if we're yearning for a catastrophe, yearning for an apocalypse, just to change things in the way they are, we'll be waiting a long time because it'll just change into something else and we'll still be there with ourselves in our own hearts having to figure out what the fuck is going on here. Life is not easy, but life is not hard either. In the sense that when people say, oh, life's hard, I can't go along with that anymore. Doesn't mean that life is easy, but people who are suffering heavily are often just have the best outlook about things, such as people who are in communities where there's a lot of hunger, where they can come together over the same ideas. Yeah, we're all hungry, we all need help, but we can still go play in the street, the kids can play ball, and we can go out and do dances and have ceremonies and do what we do as people. In the modern West, we've become so accustomed to having everything that we go into our houses and we sit and we consume and watch, which is consuming too, watch TV, consume our foods, and kind of live in our own worlds and forget that we can't shut out the rest of the world from our minds. I should say from our lives, but we can't shut off the impact from our minds. I see it, a great metaphor that just popped into my head, and I probably shouldn't use this one, would be the wall. The wall that Trump wants to build. And the reason why it's such a good metaphor is because putting up a wall gives a visual image that we're protected. But the wall is Swiss cheese. It's full of holes. Not just the wall itself. People can go under or over, but people could fly in, drive in, or come in from any of the other sides of the country. All the open borders, which is a vast majority of our borders. And really think about that for a minute and say, okay, so people are content thinking they're protected, but they're not. It's not really helping to change anything, and it wouldn't help to change anything. And let's just say, your argument may be that it would, decrease the amount of Mexicans come in, and whatever. I'm really not trying to use the wall as, a literal, facts and figures here, but just saying that in our minds, when we build walls like this, resisting the rest of the world, it's always going to be Swiss cheese. There are always going to be holes coming in. If somebody might say something and we'll say, I'm not affected by that, and then you're thinking about it the next day, that means you're dwelling on it, or that you can't let it go. And so for me, embracing the moment and saying, hey, I'm going to have thoughts that are going to be negative in my mind, or what I consider to be negative, and I need to embrace those and let them go. And never try to fight negativity, which is why I brought up the kind of New Age philosophies, is because I don't believe that it's really that there's any true path towards what you might call spiritual awareness in this world, because it's not a group effort. It's a personal yearning, a personal search. And when you've built a foundation for your temple, nobody can knock it down. And if somebody does knock part of it down, don't just try to patch it up. Rebuild it with something better material. Make sure your foundation is strong. I've spent the first 40 years of my life building my foundation. I mean, I am just getting to the walls, and getting a roof over your head to protect you from the elements is no easy task. You've got to get the walls up. So I guess my message here is that the process of changing your mind takes time. You can't wake up tomorrow and say, I just want to be a positive thinker from now on. You can't say, I'm not going to let these things bother me from now on. And you expect them to just go away. But what you can do is say, I'm going to work on embracing what is instead of what I think should be. And over time, it'll just be second nature. It just comes. I used to be a very anxious person. I had anxiety when I was, especially in my early 30s, and that was when I really decided I'm going to be living for a long time. I refuse to let this life dominate me. I am going to be in control of my brain. And it's partially taking certain herbs that have helped, but also mostly just mindset, just all around, embracing what is. I'm taking everything as it comes and not trying to build up my paradigms to where if somebody challenges those, then I'll be offended. Doesn't mean that there aren't things that I believe that aren't true, probably, but it just means that when I'm confronted with that evidence, I'm willing to change my mind, because it's, I'm not tied up. I don't have a vested interest in being right. But I do love to have a good debate, and I will, do everything in my power to show my side of the story. But for me, it's not about how people see me. It's about how people see the question and the facts and the figures. I could care less about my image. I care more about the facts being out there. And I would not allow myself to hold back how I truly feel about something merely because I don't want to offend anyone, or because I don't want to, rock the boat. Because that's what we do. We rock the boat. And, yeah, I gotta go now. I have to pick my son up in 10 minutes at school, so darn it. I guess I'll finish this later. Peace. Talk to y'all later.